What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Red and Bold Show. I am your very sad host, Mark Adams. You can find me at 49ers Camelot. I'm joined by my also sad co-host, Anthony Robertson, who you can find at 49ers Cutback. Ant, why don't you tell everybody why we're so sad today?
Yeah, first off, I want to know when we're going to get like a sad Mark emoji. That's kind of something I'm looking for now, or sad Mark Twitter account. But yeah, I mean, we're sad because the 49ers have lost Nick Bosa, and that's never a good thing when you lose a all-pro caliber player, a player that, sets the tone for the defensive line, that makes things easier for everyone else on the football team. It's hard to overcome. And these types of injuries happen in the NFL, and every time they do, the instant reaction is really, really bad because people know what a player like Nick Bosa means to the team. And then at some point, you decide that you're going to live life without Nick Bosa, and you try to figure it out. But in that short term, it's going to be very difficult. And right now, I think for a lot of people, they're trying to fathom, Mark, how exactly the 49ers replace that production, or not even just replace it, but maybe even come close to it. And I think that that's one of the things that makes everybody kind of sad right now, is that Nick Bosa won't be lining up on the outside for the 49ers when they line up for the rest of the season, or at Jacksonville for that matter.
Yeah, and, obviously we're sad for the team because they were so so much on a high, and they had each other's backs, and you could just tell that that the vibe in Santa Clara was really good. And I hope that this doesn't disrupt. I hope that this kind of gels the team even more. But it's definitely a setback for the team. But you also have to feel bad for Nick Bosa to be out for the season this early in the year. It's now his third knee injury, plus the a core injury he had his senior year at Ohio State. So he's had some major injuries that have cost him seasons. And that's sad. I feel bad for him. And then, when the news came out on Monday, I see people celebrating that. And that's just disgusting if you're going to celebrate. And then this morning, I see a 49ers fan who was celebrating this because they don't like Bosa and his political stance and things like that. And yet I'm just like, screw that, politics aside, that doesn't matter. You're talking about somebody who's now out for the season, and you're celebrating their injury, and you're a fan of the team. I just thought that was pathetic.
Yeah, I try never to engage with the injury thing. It's one of those things. I never want to see someone get hurt and somebody deal with an injury that's going to cost them, But I think that it's normal for people to look at injuries around the league and see how it benefits their football team. And I think that's how sometimes people look at it, right? You're like, I don't really want this guy to be hurt bad, but if he could miss a couple of weeks,
right.
That's usually the conversation. But whenever it's a season ending, I feel like the majority of NFL fans are like, oh man, we want to see the best players play. We want to see the best teams line up with the best players and beat the best players. And it's never good to see someone with their season ending. The same thing happened with Najee Harris down there, in Los Angeles, and he's from the Bay Area. So that one really hurt deep too. I'm like, man, I feel for Najee Harris, looking for him to have a big season there with the Chargers, and it doesn't happen. Those types of things happen to these football players that are pushing their bodies to the absolute limit. Nick Bosa does that all the time. I mean, that dude is completely jacked. He puts in the work. There's no question that he is prepared to not be injured. It's just sometimes injuries happen. It's really unfortunate. You look at that play, and he just kind of got that knee a little bit extended more than it should have, with a lot of weight bearing down on him, and it just goes. It's really unfortunate to see. And now the 49ers got to figure out life without Nick Bosa and what that means for guys like Mikael Williams and Bryce Huff, and what they're going to do. So it's tough. I wish we didn't have people that had negative responses to injuries as far as, cheering them on. But the thing is that's the thing. Everybody comes for a different array. NFL reaches so many people. You're going to have some really, bad takes on things, and you're going to have some people that are very positive. I've seen a lot of fans around the league that were concerned about Nick Bosa, and I thought that was kind of nice to see from other teams. And I think the 49er fans feel the same way about a lot of players around the league from other teams.
Yeah, we even saw that on Sunday when James Conner went down. A lot of fans of the 49ers were like, oh no, and hating that. And ultimately it benefited the 49ers, but you just still feel bad for the guy. He's a beast and he's been trouble for the 49ers. But and he's out for the season too, I think.
He is. Yeah, he's gonna have ankle surgery. He's done for the year. That was gruesome. I did not like looking at that injury at all. That one made me cringe for sure.
Yeah, it was bad. Well, let's start with this. Can the 49ers go far in the postseason without Nick Bosa? And do you think that I've opened up the 49ers web zone mailbag to start getting questions. And as you can imagine, almost every one has to do with, are they going to trade for someone to replace Nick Bosa this season? So let me ask you that one first. What do you think, if anything, they'll do? And second, if they don't do anything, can they go far in the postseason without Bosa?
Well, I think the first thing they're going to do is I do think they'll make some phone calls, right? You kind of try to find out what's available out there. I would assume right now there's not a lot. You're so early in the season. There's so many teams that still feel like they're in the mix or not ready to move on for a player or discuss that. But I also think the 49ers want to look at their team and see what they got. What happens with a team that doesn't have Nick Bosa? How can they produce? We've only seen about 3/4 of it right now. I think the next 2 weeks are going to be very important for this 49ers defense. How will Robert Saleh handle manufacturing pressure? How will Mikael Williams elevate his game in extra snaps, or Bryce Huff, or even, some of the other guys that you've had that have been playing inside? Maybe Yetur Gross-Matos gets extra snaps and Sam Okuwanu. So I think that they're going to look for a way to make this work without Nick Bosa first over the next 2 weeks. And then I think you start considering a decision when you get to week 6, week 7, about either you need help or your team's still undefeated and you're so good, why don't we get a player that can put us over the top? Because I think at that time, that's when teams are going to start looking at their roster and saying, hey, we're 0-5 or we're 1-4. We need to start considering moving on from some of these pieces that we know we don't want to retain, that aren't a part of our future. And that's when the 49ers can take advantage of some of those opportunities and maybe pick up a player. It's still going to be the same thing. They don't want to spend a lot of money and they don't want to give up a lot of draft capital. But if they can find somebody that helps their team that kind of fits in that category, I think this is kind of the method that it's moving towards. I don't expect anything imminent unless somebody comes available that they weren't expecting, or they feel like we'll just put this team over the top. So I think it's kind of a wait and see in a couple of categories. And the question of can they win without Nick Bosa and go deep in the postseason, I think is to be determined. I think they have the necessary tools, but it's going to require a guy like Mikael Williams to far exceed the expectations they had for him this season, where they were just going to kind of let him grow. Now he's got to go out there and make, some big plays. And a guy like Bryce Huff has to fully go back to his 2023 form where he had double-digit sacks for Robert Saleh. I think if that happens, if those two guys elevate their games to those levels, then yes, the 49ers can go into the postseason and make some waves because they have Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator, and he gives you an advantage in every single game you go into. And plus you have this guy, I don't know if anyone remembers him, his name Fred Warner. That guy's pretty good too. So he's going to help everybody be really good. And I think that they still got a shot, but it's a little bit tougher now without Bosa, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would say, and here's how I'm going to respond in that mailbag to some of those questions. I would say right now, if they do anything soon, and I don't think that they'll do anything soon, but if they do, think in terms of someone like Arden Key, the kind that's going to be more of a rotational piece. If they beat the Jags, if they beat the Rams after that, and now they're 5-0, then, as we move into October and start getting closer to that trade deadline, then you might see a situation. Everybody's asking about Trey Hendrickson. I don't know that the Bengals are going to agree to anything. They're not giving up on their season just because they've lost their quarterback for a while. So I just don't see that happening. But maybe there is somebody out there. If you think back to 2023, they traded for. Let's see, was it right before the season or right after the season that they traded for? Gosh, I totally blanked on his name. He wore number 5 for the 49ers.
Oh, yeah. We got him from the Broncos.
Yeah. Gosh,
I'm going
doggone,
blank
what's
on his name. I know exactly who you're talking
Somebody
about,
will
too.
remind us here in a second. But then later, he
Yeah.
was more of a rotational piece. Later in the season, before the trade deadline, they got Chase Young. That didn't really work out that much. But, Randy Gregory.
There we go.
Shane in the chat had that. And so, I think if they do something now, I would think in terms of a Randy Gregory type. If it's later in October, then maybe that's more of a Chase Young type that they're going to come in and start. But I totally agree with you. Shane in the chat said, I'm just happy we have Saleh. You kind of mentioned that. Shannon in the chat said Saleh's a mastermind. It's going to be amazing to see how he structures everything now. Lendog 49er in the chat says, don't give up the future for a quick fix. Yeah, that's and then later they made a good point here. We already have an Arden Key in Travis Gibson. And so that's a good point because Gibson is on the practice squad. So that might be somebody that they call up on Saturday.
Yeah, they have 3 defensive ends on the practice squad now that they added Bradley King back. They also have Robert Beal Jr., who made their initial 53-man roster. I think it's likely that it's Robert Beal Jr. or Travis Gibson that does come up and, provide extra depth because I think they still want Yetur Gross-Matos and they still want Bryce Huff to a point to not be base down defensive ends and use them more in pass-specific situations. And so I think it's very likely that, a guy like Huff snaps go up, but how much? He gets like 31 to 35 snaps. Do you want it to go to 55 or 60? I don't think so. But an extra 8 to 10, that's doable. So adding one of those guys up that's good at setting the edge in the run, I think is going to be good. Now, I believe Gibson has a little bit more upside when it comes to pass rush, but do you need pass rush? Because you still go to that NASCAR unit. It won't be Bosa, but it'll still be Okuwanu with the 3 that were already out there. So that's the question. But the 49ers don't have to make a roster move as far as elevating anyone if they don't want to. I expect they will, though. One of these guys I think is going to be on the active 53-man roster before the game happens. It'll probably happen in the next 24 hours.
OMG, I think I'm reading that right, in the chat says the way they played without Bosa the rest of the game is encouraging. I think they will be okay. Just continue to stop the run. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Against teams like Arizona, Jacksonville, New Orleans, Seattle, the teams that concern me are the Rams. The Rams are really good. Now, they totally blew that game on Sunday, but they were beating Philly in Philly. So the fact that they that the 49ers have them in a couple of weeks makes I don't know at this point if they're better than the Rams. I hope that they are, but we're going to find out because that's a really good team. They're good on defense. They're good on offense, maybe not special teams, especially the field goal. Did you see what the center did on that field goal?
No, I missed it.
Yeah, I said he blocked no one. And the guy that he should have blocked is the one who blocked the kick. And so that was pretty interesting. But
it's a bold strategy.
Yeah, hopefully they'll keep playing that way. Well, the 49ers are 3-0. They're 2-0 in the division with 2 wins on the road. So things are stacking up pretty well. That's impressive if everyone was healthy, but it's even more impressive considering the hand that they've been dealt. No Brock Purdy, no George Kittle, no Brandon Ayuk, no Demarcus Robinson, although he's coming back, no Malik Mustafa, and they played most of that game without Nick Bosa. We don't know yet if Brock Purdy is going to start this Sunday. Kind of sounds like he will. We also don't really know what the status is with Mac Jones' knee. At least I haven't heard anything. Have you heard how Mac Jones' knee is?
They just said day-to-day, and day-to-day is always good. It's not week-to-week, it's day-to-day, which means if he needed to play, he would be out there in that clunky brace, and he'd be playing.
Yeah, and that's kind of what they said about Brock Purdy last week is that if if they needed him on Sunday, if it was a postseason game, he'd play, but they were going to take it just be a little more careful. How impressed have you been with Mac Jones? Because I have to admit, in 2021, when they traded up, I'm thinking, because I had remembered just weeks before that Kyle Shanahan was in awe of Josh Allen when the 49ers played the Bills in that 2020 season. And so I'm thinking it's going to be an athletic quarterback. In fact, I was thinking that it was going to be the guy from Ohio State, Justin Fields. That's who I thought it was going to be. It turned out to be Trey Lance, but all these rumors start that Kyle Shanahan was in love with Mac Jones. And I was like, no, please no. And it wasn't anything against him. He ran that Alabama offense at an elite level. I just kind of agreed with what I thought was Shanahan's mindset, that the 49ers need to, because we saw that, Jimmy Garoppolo was a statue back there, after his knee injury. And I just felt like they needed somebody with more athleticism, somebody with a bigger arm, somebody that could move. And so I was anti-Mac Jones at that time, nothing against him. I just didn't feel like he was what the 49ers needed. I can admit that I was probably wrong. I mean, he has done really well these last two games. He hasn't been great, but to have two game winners, and to play the way that he has. I mean, what he did on Sunday was really impressive, especially with that knee injury.
Yeah, I think he wins very similar to the way Jimmy Garoppolo wins, right? From within the pocket, he can extend things sometimes, get outside the pocket, but that's not a hallmark of his game. He's going to more operate, go through his reads. Right now you can tell he doesn't have a firm grip on the entire offense because sometimes he doesn't get past read 1 and 2. And so, this is a guy that, of course, the longer you're in the system, the better you're going to play. But I thought he's been effective, and that's really all you can ask for, somebody that can be an effective player when you need them to step up. And that's what you're looking for in a backup. I thought Kyle Shanahan kind of went with two different style of guys last year and tried to get that mobile, athletic guy that could produce and create opportunities. And it didn't really work out with either guy. And I thought that this was the first time since they had Sam Darnold that they had a really effective backup quarterback. And I like the way that Mac runs the offense. I think he does a pretty good job. I wish that he wouldn't start slow. He definitely starts slow, and it kind of takes him a little bit of time to figure things out. He missed a big play to Ricky Pearsall in the very first drive. He just didn't quite get it there. And so I think that he's been successful. I think it's worked. I think in 5 or 6 weeks, he's going to be even a better quarterback in the system than he is right now, which is a good sign, because if something happens, you feel like Mac Jones can do what he did, win you a couple of games and kind of keep this season rolling, which is what you need. You can't have these dips like they had in the past with some of the backup quarterbacks. So it's been very effective. I've enjoyed it. I think that there's definitely things he knows he needs to get better at. I love his response to his interception. I thought that was phenomenal. The fact that you're able to look at yourself and say, hey, I made a mistake, and then laugh about how bad it was. That's just kind of understanding who you are and letting things roll off your back. And that's a sign of a really good quarterback who's going to be successful. And he's probably got a lot of attention around the league, and people are probably going to call about him at some point.
Yeah, and I thought it was great leadership. If you read, I think NBC Sports Bay Area put out this thing where you had the Dominic Pooney safety, which I want to get your thoughts on that, because to me, it looked like that wasn't a safety. It looked like Pooney held him at like around the 3-yard line or something like that. I didn't see him hold him in the end zone, but whatever. But he said that Mac came back to him and said, hey, that was on me, which I thought was great leadership for him because that wasn't Mac Jones' fault. But he took the blame for it. Was that a safety?
I don't think so. I'm with you. I thought that it was a hold right away. Dominic Pooney got cooked. I mean, Calais Campbell hit him with the swim move. And Dominic Pooney was unbalanced. He turned around. He grabbed him initially. It was probably at the, like you said, the 3, the 2.5, whatever it was. And the ref calls the little love handle, like grab in the end zone. I didn't think that was anything that needed to be called. I was surprised the refs didn't get together and say, hey, this happened outside. It happened right away, because it was a really really bad hold early. After that, it wasn't nothing. He was basically just running after him. You see that Connor Kobe did that like 3 times during the game, and they never even called it. So it was unfortunate. It was weird because you had the circumstance of Kyler Murray almost getting a safety, but the ball was outside. But then on the 49ers end, it's a holding. But, I mean, Calais Campbell's a problem. That guy was so good in that game. I have so much respect for him. The fact that he's 39 and he's still able to play so well, I mean, just bravo to that guy. He's fantastic.
That is crazy. I like this comment in the chat. Black 59 Razor says, asks who this is. I ain't ever heard of no Mark Adams. Oh, thank you. We've literally been doing this show for 2 years. I don't know if you've been asleep, Rip Van Winkle or whatever, but work on your grammar, by the way. Sorry, I'm just messing. All right, let me move on. If Brandon Ayuk was fully healthy, and I don't know that he ever will be this season, but if he was, is he wide receiver 1 or is that Ricky Pearsall? Because Ricky Pearsall is flat out balling.
Yeah, I think Brandon Ayuk would still be number 1. A big reason why that I say that is your X receiver is normally your number 1 wide receiver. Because they are out there all the time, no matter what personnel grouping you're in, right? If you're in 22, your X receiver is still out there. So that's usually the number 1 receiver. And Brandon Ayuk deserves to be number 1 receiver. He's paid like a number 1 receiver, but make no mistakes. Ricky Pearsall is coming and he is really, really good. And he's learning all the positions. He's learning that he can line up anywhere and be successful. He was so good in this last game. The route running, coming back to the football, the catch radius that we saw at Florida was on display. I mean, that one catch he made, I don't even know how he got to that football. That was insane. Pearsall is going to be a legitimate threat for this 49ers offense. And now I think we're looking back at that first-round pick, and it's like, that guy's going to be worth a first-round pick. This guy is continuing to develop. And what's awesome about this is you're going to get Juwan back, you're going to get Brandon Ayuk back, and then you're going to have 3 guys that you could consider a number 1 team on a lot, or number 1 receiver on a lot of teams. So that's good news for this football team. Pearsall's not the number 1 now, but who knows where he'll be next year. He might be considered number 1 because he's got the potential to be. Yeah,
I mean, that guy, I wrote this on Sunday that he's open even when he's not open. I mean, he is great at making contested catches. That part of his game reminds me of Juwan Jennings. He's a better route runner than Jennings. He's faster than Jennings, but man, he has great hands. I've been super impressed with him this season. How big is it going to be to get Demarcus Robinson back this week?
It's going to be huge because Demarcus Robinson knows this offense already. He did it all the way through the offseason. He already came from an offshoot in Sean McVay's system, so it was an easy transition. But I don't know if anyone was targeted at training camp or the preseason as much as Demarcus Robinson. He was really a guy that the quarterbacks counted on. And we talk about Ricky Pearsall being open even when he's not open. Demarcus Robinson gets open a lot too. He's a really superb route runner. And I think that's going to add to the depth of this 49ers wide receiver room. And now it goes from question marks from week to week to really a strength once you have him out there with Ricky Pearsall and Kendrick Bourne. That's 3 very solid wide receivers up top. And that's not even including once Juwan kind of works himself back in. We don't know overall what's happening with the ankle. I think it's good news this day to day. But, I mean, think about that 4 wide receiver group right there. That's not including Brandon Ayuk. That is a pretty good group. And what I love about it is they're all guys who understand the routes, how to create separation on their own. They can all do different things. But Robinson's going to add the dynamic of he's going to be able to stretch the field vertically a little bit. He's not like a burner, but for whatever reason, he finds ways to get open. But you can also get him in man coverage, and he can win. And so I think that that's going to be very big for this team. I think Demarcus Robinson, a lot of people may be letting this thing float under the radar. He's pretty good. I think he's going to play well in this game.
What's going on with the run game is I see that some people are saying that it's McCaffrey. To me, he doesn't quite look as explosive as the 2023 version, but he still looks really good. And to me, he's just not, he doesn't have the room to run. So is this an offensive line thing? Is it just the fact that that teams are stacking the box. I mean, we go back to the Nolan and Singletary days. Everybody the 49ers played stacked the box, but Frank Gore still found a way to pick up yardage. Now, I'm not saying McCaffrey runs like Frank Gore. I think that, you know, the receiving element is what sets him apart. But is this an offensive line issue? Is this the way that teams are playing them? What's been going on? Because they're just not running the ball like we're used to seeing.
Yeah, it's a combination of both. It really is. I think that in week 1, we saw the offensive line and the tight ends kind of struggle when it came to blocking. And some of it is the personnel they were going against. I mean, that Seattle defensive line and edge players are pretty darn good. I thought that against New Orleans, it looked like the offensive line kind of figured it out a little bit more. They played well, even though they had a stacked box. Right now, teams are saying, we're going to make your quarterback beat us. And it really happened in week 2 and week 3, where they went single high safety, they loaded the box, they put 5 men on the line of scrimmage, and they said, hey, you're going to have to get it done with somebody else. And so they've been trying to take away all the hallmarks of the 49ers Kyle Shanahan offense, the outside zone, not allowing that to get going, not allow those deep crossers to be successful in the passing game. And they're just making the 49ers figure out ways to win. So far, they have. But I thought in this game, we had some struggles with certain offensive linemen. I thought Connor Kobe had some struggles when it came to run blocking and pass blocking. But I didn't think it was a clean game from Dominic Pooney either. I thought he was struggling. And even though Colton McKivitz had some really great plays, there's also some plays he struggled when those guys, I mean, they were selling out to stop the 49ers run in this game. But the good news is the 49ers still found ways to make the run game effective at times. That toss play to Brian Robinson is probably one of my favorite plays in the Kyle Shanahan regime because of how it was executed. It had a great block by Luke Farrell, a great block by Colton McKivitz. I mean, McKivitz literally hitting the guy, knocking him down the field 15 yards. Jake Brendel doing the same thing. Like, this is just domination by them. And then a guy like Marquez Valdez-Scantling doing his best Juwan Jennings impersonation and absolutely locking down the outside as well. Brian Robinson being comfortable and knowing where to go. That is the beauty of the 49ers run game. We haven't seen it as much this year. But I think once Brock Purdy gets back, you have some of your weapons back. George Kittle comes back. Number one, that'll help with run blocking. But you get Brandon Ayuk and Juwan Jennings. It'll start to kind of make those guys, give some space. And all of a sudden, you're not going to see 8-man boxes, and you'll see 7. You'll have some more advantageous run opportunities, and they'll get some more yards.
Yeah, I definitely think adding some receiver threats, and Lindog said that in the chat, that better receivers are going to help the run game, especially if they ever get Jordan Watkins on the field and he can stretch that field. I mean, I know that's what Marquez Valdez-Scantling is there for, but it just seems like nobody's afraid of him. And nobody's going to be afraid of Jordan Watkins at first either, but maybe he can make some people believe in what he can do. What do you think is the good and the bad with this offensive line?
Well, I think the good is Trent Williams is getting better each week. I think that we see him kind of getting his legs underneath him, and we need Trent Williams to play really well if the 49ers are going to have sustained success this year. And I thought that he looked, a lot better. I think that the question marks about this offensive line have to be the two guards right now, Connor Kobe and Dominic Pooney. And for Dominic Pooney, we know it's got to be attached to the injuries. He's just not moving as good laterally like he used to do. He doesn't anchor as well as he used to do. His run blocking is not as effective. I think he's a step slow, and I think he's still working through injury. And I give him credit for going out there and gutting it out because he's better than the next option that the 49ers have. But you're seeing the effects of it. He's just not as good as he was last year, and I think he will admit that. But I think it's injury-based. With Connor Kobe, it's a guy that's thrown out there before he's ready. I mean, this guy should have not been out there yet, but he has to, and he has to grow up quickly. And so we've seen some things happen. Last week on the show, I said they're probably going to target Connor Kobe. They absolutely did. Calais Campbell lined up over him and gave him problems. He gave up 5 pressures in that game, and a lot of it's because that's just something when you can get a guy one-on-one with some of these big or fast interior guys, it makes a problem. Josh Sweat gave him problems. Calais Campbell gave him problems. And so Connor Colby just needs time to grow. The question is, can the 49ers wait for him to grow during the season? That's the question mark. But I don't see them having a lot of options. You look around, Spencer Burford's on IR. Matt Hennessy, I don't think he's the answer. Probably not going to go to Drew Moss. Connor Colby's probably the better player right now than Drew Moss. And you don't really have anyone else to go with. So it's going to be Connor Colby, and he's just going to have to get better. I think that's the concern. The good thing for the 49ers is, like I brought up Trent Williams, but Jake Brendel is also having the best season that he's had as a 49er in a long time. He put together 3 pretty good games. He still has his mistakes. He still messes up here and there, but the run blocking and some of that has been really superb this year. So that is good news. And Colt McKivitz still continues to be a pretty consistent right tackle. But those guards right now is a question mark. And if one of them can figure it out, it's probably Pooney that will do it first. That will kind of stabilize things. They can give help to Connor Colby.
Yeah, kind of surprised that Hennessy's not a better option than Connor Colby, because I really thought, I mean, we talked about in the offseason that there would be a chance that Hennessy could be that left guard. And so I'm kind of surprised that he's kind of fallen down below the rookie. And I don't know if he's fallen below Drew Moss or what, or maybe they're just wanting him to focus more on center.
I think that he would probably go in before Drew Moss, because I do worry about Drew Moss's lateral quickness right now against faster interior defensive linemen. I think Eric Armstead is going to be a tough test for these guys on the inside coming up. I mean, he's the blueprint for a reason. But I think with Matt Hennessy, I know Kyle Shanahan had mentioned him playing guard, but I wonder if they feel like that's not his best position. Chris Foerster's talked about, length of arms and size. And Connor Colby, when it comes to size and arm length, he's got a real advantage over Matt Hennessy, or at least he plays with that kind of ability. So I think that it's one of those things where Colby played so good when he came in his first game that they were very interested to see what he could do. And he has improved so much. But I don't know if Matt Hennessy's going to get a shot. I think Connor Colby would have to play extremely bad. And I don't think we've seen extremely bad. We just seen shaky. And I think that still means he's a rookie growing. So I think he's okay right now. But, who knows what they'd have to do if Connor Colby continues to struggle or gets worse.
Yeah, and I would imagine Eric Armstead is going to be pretty motivated on Sunday. Back during, I think right after the season, we both were hoping to see the 49ers. We didn't expect it, but we were hoping to see the 49ers find a way to re-sign Dre Greenlaw. At this point, I think they made a good decision in not re-signing him, because he's now on IR, can't get on the field. And his replacement has looked very Dre Greenlaw-like. We all know that Fred Warner is the best linebacker in football. Is Warner and D. Winters the best duo at linebacker in the NFL?
I think they're in the conversation. I think that Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner definitely were. I think that D. Winters and Fred Warner, I could say this clearly, they're the best coverage linebacker duo in the NFL. That's for sure. I think that D. Winters is still getting better when it comes to run stopping, but some of the things he does, going sideline to sideline, the speed, the chase down ability is phenomenal. I mean, I think that by the end of the season, I think D. Winters is going to be a household name in the NFL. I really do think people are going to talk about him, in a real positive light. You can hear it right now. The commentators, they're talking about D. Winters. He's a conversation point from the 49ers coaching staff and from the opposing team. And you just see some of the matchups that he's able to handle and some of the things that he does. And I think right now they're the best coverage tandem. And I think probably by the end of the year, they could be the best linebacker tandem if D. Winters continues to develop and grow. And I think he's going to. I think this guy, barring any injuries, he stays healthy. I think he's going to be a real big player for the 49ers. And then, yes, that it makes total sense. This is who they were hoping he was going to be, because they envisioned that Dre Greenlaw might leave at some point. The problem was D. Winters had never lived up to expectations where they were ready to go, okay, it's time to make that move. Well, now when the opportunity came, D. Winters has stepped into it. And he's done really good, and I got to give him credit. His body's, he's staying healthy. He's doing a good job with his body. His instincts are through the roof. His athleticism is there, and his tackling has been phenomenal. 49ers tackling has improved. Upton Stout, Marquis Siegel, D. Winters, all great tacklers. Last year, those were all positions where the 49ers struggled to tackle.
Yeah, it's been fun watching him. Hopefully he can stay healthy, which he hasn't really done in the past, but he has this season so far. It's time for our weekly rookie watch. Michael Williams is killing it, and he was so good at the past two games, but even after Nick Bosa went out, he was really good. Alfred Collins is getting better. He's starting to play more snaps. Stout, man, he's a playmaker. Had one of the biggest plays of the game on Sunday, which got the ball back to the offense. What are you seeing from this class? You already talked about Connor Colby. CJ West isn't playing a ton of snaps, and now he has a broken thumb, I think. Marquise Siegel. What are you seeing from these rookies? Who's jumping out? Who are you like, I don't know if this one's quite ready yet? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think the good news is no moment's too big for these rookies. They're going out there, they're displaying toughness. They're going out there, they make a mistake, they're just climbing back right in and doing something else. I think with Mikel Williams, I got to start with him because I think we're seeing the biggest jump out of him. You're talking about a 0% pressure rate in week 1. Week 2, it's over 3%. By week 3, it's over 20%. This guy is improving at a rapid pace, and it makes sense. He had no preseason. We just finished 3 games. There's his preseason. I think Mikel Williams is ready to take another jump, and this is exactly what the 49ers were hoping they were going to get out of a number 11 pick, instant impact, and he's making an instant impact. Every time that there's a sack, Mikel Williams seems to be around somewhere. He might not finish the job, but he helps somebody else with his complementary style that he plays. He sets the edge against the run, and all I can keep envisioning is the first read option they ran. He comes crashing down, runs through Trey McBride, and makes the tackle in the backfield for a loss. Like, that's just who he is. And Mikel Williams has been great. I think the Marquise Siegel and Upton Stout have continued to battle. It hasn't all been pretty. It hasn't. They've continued to battle, and they make good tackles. Upton Stout was the number 1 tackler in this game for the 49ers percentage-wise. He's not missing tackles. The week before, it was Marquise Siegel. That has been very effective because you just don't allow yards after the catch. It's like D. Winters. He gave up 4 catches for 4 yards because he makes tackles when he's supposed to. Yeah. That is a big reason why you stop teams from getting extra yards and being able to get first downs. So I think Siegel and Upton Stout have been there, plus Upton Stout making that 3rd and 9 play. Just the competitive factor. He never gave up. That feistiness that we love, that was the whole, he's a dog. I mean, literally when he got drafted, that was the first thing I said when I was asked about him. He's a dog, and that's exactly what you're seeing from him. He's like a pit bull out there in the run game and in the pass game. So overall, I think that this rookie class is doing pretty good. I think there's still some development with Alfred Collins and CJ West. Those guys you're up and down games because they don't have consistency yet. It's going to come, but you see flashes. That's what you're hoping. These guys are going to turn those flashes into consistency. Then you're going to have some really good, players on your hands. So I like this rookie class. I think they've got a chance to be real good. And I didn't talk about Connor Colby. And, I think that he's also got a chance to develop into a really good player. If he can become a legitimate left guard starter, imagine that. Starting defensive end, starting nickel, starting safety, starting defensive tackles, starting offensive guard, all coming from this rookie class. That would be a phenomenal haul for the 49ers.
I didn't notice this live, but I heard somebody say, and I don't remember who it was, that on that play where Kyler Murray was almost sacked in the end zone for the safety, that the 3 players right there were the 3 rookies, Collins, West, and Williams. Did you notice that on live or when you went back and looked? Because I just saw 3 players right there. I didn't even notice who it was.
Yeah, I was literally calling it out as it was happening. I was like, oh, CJ's going to get him. Oh, no, Mikel's, here comes Alfred Collins. Like, I was literally calling it out because I love doing that. I love, I could tell I get used to the guy's cleats and I could tell who it is. So I was hyped because I was hoping one of those guys was going to get their first sack, right? I wanted CJ West or Alfred Collins to get their first sack. And so I was super hyped, for them. And I wanted it. I was expecting it to happen, but they didn't quite get it done. But it was great to see. That's the future. That's the 49ers future. And they show they have the ability. And what I love about those guys, and it permeates through the entire rookie class, they never give up. Never.
Yeah.
If you watch the film, they're always running. You see Jair Brown, he'll be jogging sometimes. Not these guys. If you're jogging, Marquise Siegel, Upton Stout, they're going to run right past you. I love that, fact about these guys. And CJ West had a good play on a screen where he ran down. So, yeah, that dude's got some skills. I like him a lot.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of plays on Sunday where Kyler Murray took off and there's a defensive lineman chasing him and they just couldn't quite get there. And I'm just thinking, if that's not Kyler Murray, then that's a sack. But he's just so quick and so fast that those defensive linemen just don't really have a chance when they start to chase like that. But how's Renardo Green look to you on film? Because it can, and I think that Bebop Jones here in the chat said Lenore Island, and Diamador Lenore is just elite, and so teams are going after Renardo more. But are you seeing any kind of drop off from him? Is he still playing at a high level? Because it just seems like there have been a few little misses here and there.
Yeah, I thought week 2, I think he got exposed a little bit, against Chris Olave. And I think those are going to be tough matchups for him when he has to go against those guys that are elite route runners, right? Jackson Smith and Jigba, Chris Olave types. I thought this was a much better matchup. And I think if you really look at the numbers, he did a pretty good job. I know that he got the bad penalty. It's interesting that he got pass interference on a guy that the ball didn't even get thrown to. But hey, new rules in the NFL all the time. But he was beat on that play, and he made a bad play on Zay Jones. So I think that he's doing a good job. I thought it was a much better performance in week 3 than it was in week 2. And I think that we're going to continue to see this guy grow as the season goes on, and we got to remember he's just in year 2, right? We're talking about Ricky Pearsall excelling. I think we had such high expectations for Renardo Green because of what he did last year, but he's still a young guy learning as well. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think by the time we get to week 7, week 8, we're going to start seeing him really locking things down. I think he'll start creating some turnovers, which this secondary desperately needs. They haven't had an interception since week 11 last year. They've got to get something to happen here pretty soon. But yeah, I'm not concerned about Renardo Green. I think he's doing a good job, and you made a great point. Diamador Lenore has been so good; they're not even really testing him. The only time they throw at him is when he's playing super off. Just to get a little quick throw. That's it. Other than that, they're looking at Renardo. They're looking at Upton Stout. They're trying to go after Marquise Siegel or attack a linebacker because Diamador Lenore has stepped up to the challenge. He's been everything they thought he was going to be, replacing Charvarius Ward.
Yeah, and really, I think you make a great point that it takes time for these young guys to develop. All we have to do is go back to 2021 and remember that Diamador Lenore was beaten out by Ambry Thomas. So sometimes it just takes a player a little bit to find his footing, and so I think that Lenore or Green's going to be fine. Just was curious what you're seeing from him so far. Well, let's turn our attention to Jacksonville. We don't really have much time, but 49ers have faced some tough defensive fronts so far. We know that Eric Armstead is coming back to Levi Stadium. That Jacksonville defense is pretty tough. What do you see with them? How does Jacksonville's defense stack up to the others that the 49ers have faced so far?
Yeah, I think this is probably going to be, one of the better defenses they've seen. It's definitely the best run-stopping defense that they have seen so far this season. They got an array of talent up front. They got linebackers that can run, but they do a good job of really slowing down opponents' run games, and I think that's going to be something that's key. Can the Jacksonville Jaguars stop the 49ers run with a 7-man box? Right now, everyone's been having to sell out. I think Jacksonville might tempt it and try to go a 7-man box, especially if Brock Purdy's playing, and just say, hey, we're going to see if you can do it. They only give up 84 yards per game on the ground, which is absolutely phenomenal. So I do think this defense is going to be tough. And it's just like all the time, we've been saying it all year long, 49ers need to stay ahead of the sticks. They've been really good on third down on offense. Last week, it took a little bit of a dip. But if you can stay ahead of the sticks and get first downs, you have a chance to score against this Jacksonville team. But they're good. They only give up 17 points per game, and they're Their one weakness has to be their secondary and their pass defense, but it's still decent. It's still pretty good. But I think that's one of the things, right? People are throwing on them a little bit more because it's so hard to run, finding that balance. Can the 49ers get their weapons open against a secondary that's not extremely talented, but it's pretty good?
Yeah, I think I saw that they have 7 interceptions in only their 3 games this year. So yeah, they're making plays. I don't know that that's just the secondary. Could be some linebackers in there, where the 49ers have gone over 10 games without an interception. Their last pick came from Isaac Yedem in week 11 last season, which I think you mentioned earlier. So yeah, it's going to be a tough matchup. Where do you see the 49ers having the advantage, and where do you see Jacksonville having the advantage on Sunday?
Well, I think the 49ers advantage has to come on the defensive side of the ball. With all the success of the Jacksonville Jaguars this year, they're 2-1. They've played pretty well. They've been running the football extremely effective, over 140 yards per game on the ground. Give them credit. Trevor Lawrence has still continued to look shaky. You know, he's completing passes at 58%. He's got 4 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, so he's still putting the ball in harm's way. I think that is the shakiest part of their game, and we've seen the 49ers be so good when it comes to stopping teams on third down right now. This defense holds teams to just 33% conversion rate. That has been elite, and Jacksonville's offense hasn't been great converting on third down. They're at 40%. So this is an opportunity for the 49ers if they can stop the run early and they can put this game on Trevor Lawrence. I think that the 49ers are going to have a real shot to make some plays. I think that's the biggest advantage for the 49ers is the fact they're facing a quarterback like Trevor Lawrence. I think the biggest weakness for the 49ers is Jacksonville might be able to make the 49ers offense one-dimensional early. I think that the 49ers have struggled to run the ball, and I think it's going to be difficult against Jacksonville to run the ball again. These guys are really good at stopping it. I think the 49ers are going to have to take advantage and loosen them up with the passing game. And like I said, if Jacksonville can stop the 49ers running game with a 7-man box, they're going to make it even more difficult, no matter who is quarterback, to be able to complete passes. So this is one of those, strengths and weaknesses type game. And Jacksonville's a lot better than people think. They just haven't been as effective because their offense isn't as effective scoring points. But they still outscore the 49ers by nearly 4 points per game. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. I'd love to see the 49ers figure out a way to run the ball against Jacksonville. I think that'd make it a lot easier. If not, 49ers are going to have to find a weird way to win, even though they might lose the time of possession again.
Yeah, it feels like they've found a weird way to win each week. So who do you see winning this game?
Yeah, right now, FanDuel has this game at 3.5 for the 49ers favored. I think that's a pretty fair number, over under at 46.5. And I think that we're going to see a little bit of points in this game. I think there's going to be some scoring. I think 46.5 is a little lofty, but I do think that the 49ers are going to be able to figure it out. I think that there's holes in Jacksonville's game, and I just don't think that offense with Trevor Lawrence, if it gets put in situations to continuously have to be successful on third, especially third and long, and convert in the red zone, that he's going to be good enough to do it. So I think this kind of falls a lot on Trevor Lawrence. I'm kind of putting my money on the 49ers to score enough points to win, and I think they'll get it done. I think it's going to be a tight one, but I do think the 49ers defeat the Jacksonville Jaguars. And let's remember, for whatever reason, Jacksonville has really struggled against the 49ers in their recent matchups. The 49ers have pretty much blown them up. Now they're missing a lot of players this time compared to others, but it's been a successful, time against Trevor Lawrence and that Jacksonville Jaguars offense.
Yeah, it'd be great to go into that week 5 game against the Rams undefeated. What else you got from FanDuel? What are you looking at there?
Yeah, I like a lot of their player props. Last week I went on a good one that they had Christian McCaffrey receiving yards at 38.5. I went the over on that, one big. Of course, he went way over, and that's still something that you look at every week. So they're going to have McCaffrey's player prop. Look at those. You can find his reception yardage, and he's going to have success throwing the football or catching the football, whoever the quarterback is, because right now the way teams are playing. So there's some good bets when it comes to player props for the 49ers.
Great stuff. Anything else that you want to mention before we take off?
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what Robert Saleh does defensively to simulate pressure and create opportunities for the guys he has left without Nick Bosa. And let's see if the 49ers can get enough pressure on Trevor Lawrence to disrupt him and make him feel uncomfortable. It's going to be creative. Just in that game alone, the quick adjustments by Robert Saleh were great. They had one play where they had Bryce Huff lined up off the line of scrimmage and over the center, and then ran a stunt to create an opportunity. And then you had Mikael Williams and Etor Gross-Matos yank their guys out of the way to create the opportunity. He's going to find ways to generate pressure, but now it's going to be a team effort. You're going to see all those guys up front, plus Upton Stout, plus Jason Pennick, plus Marquis Siegel. It's going to be a lot of fun. Robert Saleh is going to have to do it. He's done it before, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. It's going to be an exciting brand of football from the 49ers defense.
Great stuff as always. And thank you for everybody that was live with us today, everybody in the chat. And thank you for those that have gone back and watched or listened later. We appreciate everybody. Hope that you have a great rest of your week, and hoping for a 49ers win to move to 4-0 this Sunday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. See ya.